I'm Max Sterling. Welcome to larpgasm. The video I'm about to present to you, I feel, is probably one of the most important LARP videos that you may watch. This video is going to tackle a very controversial subject, and that subject is European LARPs versus American LARPs. Now, we've all seen the comments before. Oh, American LARPs are shit. You know, they're garbage. They look like shit. European LARPs are so superior. They're so great. They're so fantastic. They're so awesome. You know, the comments are ridiculous that you see underneath videos. But it doesn't take trolls commenting on shit for you to see with your own eyes the differences between these type of LARPs and everything in between that people consider LARP. So, in this video, we're going to attempt to tackle this subject. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on this because I've only ever played American LARPs. So, if I miss something or screw something up, I expect for you to adjust it in the comments for me. You know, create a healthy discussion if you want to. If you feel so moved, create your own video and upload it. Let me know where it's at in the comments and we can go check it out. But if not, I would like for this video to stand as sort of the reasoning behind these LARPs, why certain LARPs are perceived as being certain ways, and why in the end we should all come together as a community and not piss and moan about what's better and what's worse and what looks better and what is better, but rather just embrace it all as part of the LARPing community, as part of a hobby, and just sort of have mutual respect for everyone and what they do, because not everything is the same and it's not supposed to be the same. So let's go ahead and try to tackle this subject. So we want to compare European LARPs to American LARPs. Well, what we have to understand is there's a hell of a lot of different types of LARPs out there, and both areas have a ton of different types. So you have your standard American boffer LARPs, you have things like the SCA and Amped Guard that are sort of like historical recreation, but it's not exactly reenactment. You also have reenactors, which in America we have like our Civil War reenactors. However, if you call a reenactor a LARPer, they'll probably punch you in the face. But little do they know, if you're in a costume pretending to be someone else and you're acting out some sort of series of events, you're LARPing. So we also have things like vampire and werewolf and sort of non-combat games. We have your dinner mystery murder type events or weekend events at hotels and things where you're giving a character to play and you sort of play the role and everyone else plays the role within sort of this pre-designed plot that everyone is interacting in, and there's a definite beginning and end to those games. You have things like Daga here where it's more combat oriented and lighter on the role playing, but there is still role playing involved. It's just mostly combat. You have things that are almost pure combat like paintball, airsoft, and those things aren't always LARPing, but if you're pretending to be SEAL Team 6 and you're going in to some caves after Osama, guess what? If you're wearing gear, you're using call signs and stuff, you're LARPing, whether you like it or not. Tough guy. And then, of course, you have your just straight-on combat. You have your like heavily armored combat. You have people that do jousting. You have HEMA, fencing, all that stuff. That's not really necessarily LARPing, but for some reason it tends to get sort of shuffled into the deck with that because there's not really any role-playing involved, but because it's medieval, you know, sort of based, or it has that sort of flavor, a lot of times it gets mixed in with that. You also have your Renaissance fairs. You also have festivals like Wasteland Weekend that occurs. And, of course, you have your sort of more off-the-cuff sort of non-standard things like people who do role-playing exercises to sort of promote personal growth. You have Nordic LARP style stuff. You have black box style stuff. But in America, that's a lot less than I think is in Europe. Now, in Europe, you have all the same stuff I just talked about. You know, you have Drakenfest Conquest, you have your Witcher school, you have your Harry Potter school thing, you have your reenactors, you have HEMA, and basically, you know, everything in between, your Nordic LARPs and all that type of stuff, your fairs. And What I see is when people go to compare things, they're not comparing apples to apples. They want to take a look and they want to compare something like HEMA to a standard American Boffer LARP. They want to compare Drakenfest or Conquest to a standard American Boffer LARP. You can't do that because they're not the same thing. If I told you I wanted to compare some cars I was looking at online, and I told you that I was going to compare a 2017 Lamborghini to a Yugo, I would tell you that, yeah, they're both cars. They both take you from one place to another. They have four wheels. You drive them. But really, beyond that, what's the similarity? I mean, I can look at the Lamborghini and I can look at the Yugo and I can definitively say this car, to me, is a piece of shit, and this car, is a gold standard. People want to compare things that aren't the same. Now, if you compare that Lamborghini to a Ferrari, then you have to really scrutinize because you're comparing the same things. If you want to compare that Yugo to a Geo Metro, now you're talking about comparing the same things. And if you're not a car person, I still hope you get the analogy. The point is, you got to compare like with like. You can't compare, something that is different from another thing. So when I read through all these comments, I see people saying that American Boffer LARPs look like shit. I believe that what they're doing is they're watching and looking at a bunch of videos for like Drakenfest, Conquest, and things like that. And then they're looking at videos for like a Nero weekend event. And they're saying, wow, this really looks like shit. Because your point of comparison is a once-a-year festival that is really someone's lifestyle more than is a hobby, whereas Nero is just a hobby for some people. And you can't really compare the two. If you want to compare Conquest to something, you need to compare that to an SCA event like Penzik, okay, where it's a once-a-year big festival, thousands of people. There's caution requirements, there are large combats, and things like that. That is what you need to compare, is those two things. Now, I'm not saying that you personally may not arrive at the same conclusion, but you need to compare like for like, okay? I wouldn't compare HEMA to a LARPcraft game. That would be stupid. Although I see people do it online. People come from something like HEMA, and they go play a Boffer LARP, and then they say the Boffer LARP is fucking stupid. Well, the truth is, you're used to fighting this style. You came to a Boffer LARP, and a bunch of 14-year-old kids probably mopped the floor with your ass because you're used to fighting one person in a controlled area with a referee, and you went here and 4 people jumped you at once. You didn't have the skill or the tactics to fight 4 people at once, and they fucking kicked your ass. And then you go back to your game and you cry about it. And I think that that's what happens a lot of times when you're talking about that. If you want to compare HEMA to something, then you go to a karate tournament, okay? You go to a fencing match, and you compare that to those sort of things, like to like. You don't compare people throwing lightning bolts in the woods to you fighting one opponent in heavy armor with a sword. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I'm not trying to put anyone down here. I'm just saying that people want to compare shit that is not comparable and then try to come off like they're better for some reason. As LARPers, we should all appreciate what everyone else is doing and embrace all forms of LARP and see value in all of it. Like for me, I've tried heavy combat at SCA. I don't enjoy having my larynx crushed. I don't enjoy having a knee broken. I don't enjoy having broken fingers. I don't enjoy having an eye dislocated or a broken nose. I have a job I have to go to on Monday. I can't go out for a hobby, and break my kneecap or an ankle and then not work. So for me, the heavy combat is not something I want to do. Getting hit repeatedly in the head with essentially a broom handle by someone who is 6'5" and 400 pounds is not really a good time to me. Now, going out in the woods and walking, bullshitting with my friends, enjoying, the outdoors, and then sort of that video game sort of Skyrim sort of experience where, you know, maybe a couple orcs jump out, you know, and you beat them down and take their stuff and you go back into town and sell it. To me, that is enjoyable. And I realize that different people, you know, different strokes for different folks, but I'm not going to go to my boffer LARP and say, man, I did this SCA and man, that is the fucking stupidest shit I've ever seen in my life. They make you, you know, wear period specific costumes. Like, you gotta wear these really shitty shoes that are uncomfortable. You gotta wear these heavy ass fabrics, and you know, it's just not fun. You know, I went there and some fat dude fucking beat on my head for like 30 minutes and then tried to get me to drink like a gallon of mead. You know, I'm not going to go and I'm not going to bash that group, okay? Because for some people, they love that shit. And I wouldn't want them to come to a boffer LARP and then go back to their group and say, I went to one of these stupid-ass boffer LARPs and there's a bunch of 14-year-old kids hitting me with foam suppositories. It was so fucking stupid. It was like the dumbest thing I've ever seen. There was like orcs and shit. It was so fucking dumb. I don't want people to do that. I want us to all embrace. I understand LARP as an overall culture, but I don't know that that would ever happen. But when I see comments online, it's like, you want to be king of the nerds. It's like, oh, I'm so much better than you because I paid $100 for a latex sword and you have a foam sword that you made in your basement, and I'm so much better than you because I'm nerding better than you. And I mean, what the fuck are you trying to prove there? You know what I mean? I don't get it. So that's the point I'm trying to make with this. Until next time, adventure on.